Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
6:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Happy Friday to you. It is April 11th of 2025. And Joan, you were playing a little piece there about this bill going through the Tennessee state legislature.
Yeah, right.
To allow school districts to either not allow illegal alien kids to go to their school or charge them a certain amount of money to go to the school and so forth. Can you play that little piece again?
Yeah, sure. Hang on.
Senator Watson, who sponsored the bill, argued it's a money issue, claiming undocumented students cost Tennessee schools at least $35 million a year. But 6 of Watson's Republican colleagues turned against the bill, joining Democrats who say it's morally wrong to deny children an education, saying this bill is punishing kids for their parents' choice to come to the U.S. illegally.
All right, so $36 million, they say, and I do wonder if, because I'm just going to be honest, I understand what people are saying about this. You know, constitutionally, critics say it's an assault on the rights of all kids to a free education, as mandated by Plyler versus Doe. This is going to be challenged and so forth. It's going to make its way through the courts. But, you know, here's the thing. It would authorize public school districts and public private charter schools to refuse to enroll students who are here illegally or, again, charge them with a fine. You know how much they say? $400 million a year. This is the number that I've seen. The state of Tennessee pays around $400 million a year for these kids to be educated. The costs are, they say, simply a rough estimate. But, you know, here's the thing. Because I get that we all are very anti-illegal immigration. We are pro-legal immigration, but we are anti-illegal immigration. Phil Valentine used to always say, and I absolutely agree, we need to demagnetize America. According to a Rutherford County resolution, the average annual cost of educating an ESL student is $3,500 higher than for other students. Tennessee's Department of Education reports more than 83,000 ESL students are enrolled in the current school year, nearly doubling the 43,000 reported in the 2015 and 2016 school year. KGB, take the phones off hold. Take the phones off hold. So we all know that we need to demagnetize America. We all agree on that. But would you agree to a compromise? I'm taking phone calls, 615-737-9986. And I'm going to ask a question. Maybe we say, okay, if you are already here, we will educate your kids, even if you are an illegal alien, because you came here, you knew the policy, and you came here to get your kids educated and take advantage of America, blah, blah, blah. But do we say, we'll educate your kids, but beginning on, I don't know, April 12th of 2025, if you come into this country illegally, know that your kids will not be educated by the United States of America for free. In other words, is there a compromise? We educate the kids that are already here, but anyone coming after a certain date, no, because you came here knowing that your kids would not be educated. Is there room for compromise? 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Now, let me throw a couple of things out here. Number one is Joe Biden, as you know, absolutely obliterated our border and everything Donald Trump did. So this problem has been exacerbated by the Democrats. Trump's border protection has helped a lot of this, of course. But do you know where MS-13 actually does a lot of their recruiting? In the schools. Yes, you're right. I've reported on this often. MS-13 does a lot of their reporting and a lot of their recruiting in schools. So these guys come over here, sometimes as kids, and I'm putting that in air quotes, sometimes as kids, they end up in our schools and they start recruiting. And we're paying for that. We are paying for that. And I know that not all of them, obviously, are MS-13 gangbangers, but it's actually a very small amount. But still, thanks to Biden, it is a growing problem. And so now we find ourselves in a situation where here in the state of Tennessee, where, okay, so if we're not going to demagnetize America, and we'll see what happens ultimately at the Supreme Court, but we should at the very least try to demagnetize Tennessee. And here's the other thing. I like how they are leaving it up to each individual school district. So is there room for compromise? Would you be okay saying, all right, so if you're already here, then what we'll do is we'll educate your kids, but beginning at a certain date, no more. If there is even a way to do that. But anyway, demagnetizing America is what we need to do. And ultimately, if we as a nation said, beginning on April 12th of 2025, if you try to come in after that, if for some reason we even let you in, no, kids will not be educated or educated for free. Because I get it. We spend a crap ton of money on illegal alien kids. And oftentimes it is to the detriment of kids that are already here. I mean, we've spoken before about how many of the various language are spoken in Rutherford County. I forget how many it was, but it was a lot of languages spoken in Rutherford County. And you know what? I blame the Democrats for this because while it was always an issue, it wasn't as much of an issue until what Joe Biden did. So this is the fault of Joe Biden. And now here we are, once again, the state of Tennessee trying to clean up the issues and the actions of the Democrats. 615-737-9986. Brian is in Thompson Station. Brian, is there room for compromise here?
Good morning, Dan. Look, the way I see it, they're bleeding us dry financially with tax fraud. They're bleeding us dry in the medical front, in the emergency room, going in, getting services, not paying for it, and it's even making it hard for us to get an appointment. They knew when they came here that it was illegal for them to do so.
Yep.
And I just do not feel it's right for taxpayer dollars to go towards interpreters and bringing all that riffraff and lowering. It's like a brain drain. It's lowering our kids' intelligence. And I think that if they're here in the school with this law, is willing to charge them for the interpreter and maybe have a separate class to where it doesn't bring us down, then I'm okay with it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. More of your calls coming up next. 615-737-9986. The super text line, somebody has a great point, and I'm going to bring that up. Coming up next, it is time to check the roads on WTN. Weather today, it's going to be cloudy, 60 degrees. On Saturday, a high of 63, partly cloudy. Sunny on Sunday. I should say Sunday, a high of 75 and partly cloudy. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. 7429 says, Dan, I can appreciate, Dan, I can hear it in his typing. Well, Dan, I can appreciate you trying to demagnetize Tennessee, but all you're doing is starting or giving them a time frame for rushing a bunch of illegal immigrants into the state of Tennessee. And I get it. And he says a compromise, a strong hell no from me. This is Jeff calling from Dixon County on WTN. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I've talked to everybody except you and Chad on the radio, so I figured it was time for me to call in.
Oh, thanks for calling
in. Thanks. I have a different feeling on that because there is no other crime in the country that the children get special consideration from. So the parents committed a crime knowing their children were going to pay for it. So I say no, we do not make an exception because we do not make an exception for any other crime regarding the children. If the children want an education, they need to go back home. And I'm sorry it sounds kind of tough, but it's taken away from our own children when these kids are coming into our own schools, taking away the time that our children need for education.
All right, Jeff, great point. Thank you for your call. This is Patrick in Lebanon on WTN. Hey, Patrick, go ahead.
Hey, Dan. So the only compromise in my mind actually comes down to financial, and I think it's actually a nuance in this bill, which is schools can charge tuition to the parents of undocumented children. At the end of the day, if we're going to educate them, then they need to pay into the system. And if there's not paying into the system, there is no education. It's that simple.
All right, Patrick, thanks for the call very much. I'm trying to fit in as many calls as possible. Billy is on line 4 on WTN. Hey, Billy.
Morning. I say absolutely no compromise because, I mean, we all know why they're here, for all the handouts and the freebies and all the stuff that they get. We blame Democrats for it all, but Republicans have to have a responsibility in this too, because if you just cut off all the freebies, they will deport themselves. That's why they're here. If they couldn't get why they're here, they would go back on their own. That's the way I feel about it.
I mean, Billy, you're right. I mean, here's the deal. The more reasons we give folks to come here, the more are going to try to come. And here's the problem. We can't always obviously control who ends up in the White House. We have more of a control over what happens in our own state with our state legislature and our governor and so forth. And so then the question becomes, all right, well, you know what? We try to find this case. We try to create a case that will ultimately end up in front of the Supreme Court. And I think that's what we're trying to do here in Tennessee. Betty is in Hendersonville on WTN. Hello, Betty.
Good morning, Dan. Happy Friday.
Yes, you too.
No, because what gets compromised is the quality of my children and grandchildren's education. So absolutely not. I'm not opposed to the idea of if they want to pay tuition, but that tuition better encompass all of the associated costs, free lunches, lunches and interpreters and special books printed in a different language, the whole enchilada, baby. Otherwise, no, don't compromise my children, my grandchildren's quality of education because of people who, I'm sorry, broke the law.
All right, Betty, thank you very much for the call. Darren's in Brentwood on WTN. Darren, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Betty 100%. Zero compromise. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's about time that Republicans quit dancing around the issue of the libtards not taking responsibility and or being prosecuted for the crimes that they're committing by allowing these illegals in. We need to get them out, period, end of story, and then they can come back legally and try to come in this country the correct way. Well,
and that's why, Darren, and I appreciate it, that's why Trump is trying to get folks to self-deport by saying, if you self-deport and then try to come in the right way, then we'll definitely take a look. But if you get deported, then you're not going to be able to come back. If you self-deport, yes. This is that Isaiah on line 1? Isaiah, hi.
Hey, good morning. Everybody's making some great points, and I'm a big no on this too. I think if they're going to be here, they ought to pay for something. Someone mentioned about the tutors, and it's not just Hispanics. We're talking Asian, we're talking Indian. It's all across the board. But here's the one thing that no one talks about is that in these countries, they only give free education to a certain grade level, and then after that, you got to start paying in their own countries, and we're talking to their own citizens. So at the end of the day, we have some major reforms to do here, even for our own, because there are a lot of people taking advantage of the system as it is that are legal, let alone the illegal.
All right, Isaiah, thank you very much for the call. Brian, you've got the last word on this. Brian, go ahead in Nashville.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
What I feel is, yes, you come in here illegally, you need to go back to your country, get the right stuff, and come back. I think America is a great country. I think our president is doing the best job he can with all the stuff they've been throwing at the Democrats have been throwing at him, and I think they need to fix it. We need to teach American people first. But nowadays, a lot of things you have to know how to speak Spanish, or we watch TV and it's like everything's in Spanish. We're like, this is not what America was. When I was younger, it was, you go to school and you learn American history. You learn about, rights and wrong about being a kid and learning that kind of stuff and actually learning at school. Now they don't even teach that, and they teach a lot of Spanish, and it's good to learn another language. I never did, but remove these people, say, hey, here you do, this is what you need to do, go back to your country, and then come back, and then then you could come in and do everything, but you got to pay the taxes like we all do. I pay my taxes, you pay your taxes, I pay I'm in Rutherford County, so I pay my taxes. I know where my taxes are going. And, I want that education to go to American people who live here who pay taxes, not somebody that's sneaking in.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. So I don't think we had one person that said, yes, they would compromise. By the way, I'm with everybody else. No compromise. 622 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones, by the way, coming up, Joan, before your newscast at 6:30, I've got, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened with Chris Hand in his accident.
Oh, good.
All right, so
a little update?
Little bit.
Okay.
It's all coming up straight ahead. Joan, what's up?
All right, so the Supreme Court tightens the screws on the Trump administration with a particular ruling last night. Also, we're learning who was on board that tour helicopter that crashed in the Hudson River yesterday. Those stories and more coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.